This is a resume that got me into Amazon off campus from a tier 3 college, and this is a resume that got me into Google. Today I'm going to show you exactly how to build a resume that actually gets you shortlisted, whether you're a fresher or an experienced engineer. And then I'll walk you through both of my resumes line by line and show you what I did right and also what I could have done better. So let's get started. Now, before you actually build your resume, it's important to understand who actually looks at your resume. A lot of people think that a hiring manager is carefully going to be reading each and every point. Now, that is not true. Your resume goes through 3 different stages, and understanding those stages change how you write everything. The first thing that looks at your resume isn't even human. It's the application tracking system. Majority of the companies use it. This is used to scan, filter, and shortlist thousands of resumes automatically. It doesn't care if your resume has fancy designs, colorful graphics, icons, or even your photo. All it cares about is one thing. Do the keywords in your resume match the job description? Another thing to keep in mind is if your formatting is too complicated, the ATS can misread or even miss important sections in your resume, and you can get rejected before a human even sees your resume. So the key takeaways here are: keep your resume clean and simple. Use standard fonts and section headers. Preferably, keep your resume single column. And tailor your resume according to the job description. But keep in mind, this also doesn't mean to add a skill just because the job description mentioned it and you watched a video on it for 6 minutes. If you survive the ATS, your resume finally lands in front of a recruiter. Now, recruiters are busy. They go through hundreds of resumes in a day. According to stats, they only spend around 10 seconds on each. And here's the thing, they don't read resumes, they scan through them, looking for reasons to move on. Now, in those 10 seconds, especially for software engineering roles, they're quickly checking for strong coding profiles, relevant skills, achievements, certifications, relevant coursework, and projects or real experience. If they see any unnecessary design elements, colorful layouts, or graphics, their immediate assumption is that this person is not serious. So the key takeaways here are: stick to one page if you're a fresher, put the most important information on top, remove everything that doesn't help you get this job. Nobody cares. Your excellence in Microsoft Word or the fact that you won a volleyball tournament in 8th standard doesn't matter. So if your resume looks clean, relevant, and promising in that tiny window, you move to the last stage, the hiring manager. This is the person who cares about you the most. This is the person who actually needs someone to solve real problems in the team. So, unlike recruiters, they will read the more important parts of your resume, but with one question in their mind: can this person solve real problems for my team? So, they want to see what problems you solved, how complex those problems were, and what impact it made. You need to properly showcase these qualities in your resume. To display these organically, use these formats to showcase your experience or your projects. Achieved W by doing X, which was challenging due to Y, which led to Z. An example can be reduced API latency by 35% for 2 plus million users by redesigning cache despite zero downtime requirement. This will clearly showcase the work you did and the impact that it made. And while we're on the topic of showcasing your skills properly, never do this one thing, which is rate yourself. 5 by 5 on Python or 4 by 5 on JavaScript. This doesn't mean anything. There's no universal scale for these ratings. Your 5 by 5 may be someone else's 2 by 5 or a senior engineer's 1 by 5. These are completely subjective and don't add any real value to your resume. Now, before we dive into my resumes that got me into Google and Amazon, I want to emphasize one thing which I've already spoken about, and that is clear the fluff. Now, if you've done that seriously, your resume might feel a bit light. And it happened with me as well. It can be a bit stressful, but honestly, it's a good thing. Take it as a sign to do more things. Build a project, make open source contributions, do an internship, make something real. Your resume becomes strong not by adding fluff to it, but by adding real achievements. And now let's dive into my resumes and see what a resume should and should not look like. Let's start with the resume that got me into Amazon right out of college, off campus. So here's my resume, and just by looking at the resume, I would like to say 2 things. One, I made this on Google Docs, and although it looks okay, it was a pain to manage. And second, it's a 2 column resume, which sometimes is confusing to the ATS. So right at the top, I had my name and a short one-liner. This was my attempt to add some sort of personality. It's not necessary, but it doesn't hurt to keep it short and meaningful. On the right side, I've placed my contact number, my email, my portfolio link, and social profiles like GitHub and LinkedIn. Moving on to the education section, I listed 3 separate education entries: college, higher secondary, and secondary schooling. This is fine for freshers, but after your first job, you don't have to keep your 10th and 12th education. Now moving on to WorkX. So I interned at Shiprocket from Feb 2022 to June 2022, and here I mentioned that I built a scalable OCR service on AWS Lambda. I've mentioned that that service used to process 40,000 images daily, and it reduced discrepancies by over 80%. As you can see, I've mentioned numbers, and this shows scale and measurable impact. Moving on, Akar Foundation internship. Here I worked on a web app used by 400 plus employees for requesting appointments and generating passes. Again, I mentioned impact, scale, and real usage. Personal projects, in my case, I had an e-commerce website which I built using React, Redux, Firebase, and Stripe, and a real-time chat application built with Node, Express, and WebSockets. And here's the thing that I would like to point out. I've added GitHub repo links and also live website links. Now, this is extremely important. Never write a project without showing proof. Be sure to have good readmes on your GitHub repos. Recruiters would hardly click on any links, but if they do and do not see a readme, that would be game over. And on the other hand, if they do see a good readme, they would be really impressed. So definitely do add that. Moving on, achievements. I was the winner of Codex 2020, which had over like 2050 applicants. Winning Codex 2020, a competitive programming event with over 250 participants. This is something very close to my heart and a memory I cherish a lot. To give you a little bit of context, the final problem, I still remember it. It was based on Dijkstra's algorithm from Graph, which is like the shortest path algorithm. And this algorithm I had studied in college right before the competition, like one day before the competition. So I was just at the right place at the right time. And take this as a sign to actually pay attention in classes. You never know when it might save you. After that, I was ranked 2 in my institute on Geeks for Geeks. I was at that time 4-star rating on CodeChef. These things really help because they show consistency and seriousness in problem solving. Moving on to positions of responsibility. I added this to show leadership qualities, but I only added this because I was a lead in a technical capacity of a technical club. If I would have been the head of a non-technical club or a social media head, I would not have added it. And to summarize my resume, there is not one single thing that makes it stand out, but in my opinion, the entire resume is strong itself. The internships show real experience, personal projects display a growth mindset along with experience, and achievements signal to recruiters that I'm strong in data structures and algorithms. And positions of responsibility express leadership quality. So that was the resume that got me into Amazon. And now, taking it even a step further, let's look at the resume that got me into Google. So the first thing you'll notice is that this resume looks way cleaner. I made this using Overleaf using the latex language. It has a bit of a learning curve, but once you get used to it, honestly, it's way easier to manage than Google Docs. Point number 2, again, this resume is exactly one page, even though I had more stuff to add, and more on this later. Starting from the top, this is pretty much the same. I've kept the same one-liner description intact from the previous resume. I've moved the socials to a section below. It's preferred to keep it up close to your name, so you can do that. Moving on to the education section should actually come after my experience, as at this point of time your experience matters way more than your education. I've also removed 10th and 12th education sections as it's not really needed anymore. Getting to the experience part, I was at Amazon Web Services for 3 years, and this section itself carries a lot of weight. I also got promoted from SD1 to SD2, which signals growth, something that hiring managers really value. Each bullet point here follows the same structure that I spoke about earlier. Now, you can't add everything that you've worked on, so try to add like 2 or 3 most impactful of your projects here. So let's go over one project. For example, let's take this project, the Aurora Global DB deployment autoscaling feature. My highlights were what changed, deployment time reduced from 2 months to 3 weeks, how I achieved it, autoscaling logic across services, and the impact, saves about XYZ dollars per deployment. This format clearly shows the problem, the complexity, and the business value. Another thing I'd like to mention is that I did not include my personal projects here. At this stage of my career, like I mentioned before, my experience at AWS mattered far more than my college projects, and adding them would push my resume beyond one page. And honestly, it's not worth it unless you have exceptional projects. So I skipped them. Moving on to the achievements. First one is the Star Award I received at AWS. That's a strong signal of performance and recognition. And the second one is the same one from my previous resume. And rest of my resume in terms of content is pretty much the same. And yeah, that is the resume that got me into Google. Now, before I end this video, I just want to say that if you are trying to get a job or if you are trying to switch and you're having a hard time, I understand. Just remember that you only needed to work once. There was a time when I used to apply to hundreds of companies a day just to get rejected by all of them. Just keep striving and something or the other will click. I wish you the best of luck for your journey. Thank you for watching this far and hope you have a great day. Bye.